Anthony Bennett was given just a 10% survival rate after falling very, very sick on a school trip to Disneyland Paris. Nowadays, as a international speaker, a inspirer, a motivator, Anthony brings his new perspective to help people have a new appreciation for life and own their story to live a life of impact, influence, and inspiration. Here's his story. Okay, good to have you here, Anthony, my brother, and just a big thanks to you for doing this.
It's a pleasure. Thank you very much for having me. It's good to see you.
Good to see you. It feels like we haven't seen each other for a long, long time due to this lockdown and everything that's happening in the world.
You
How
know
have
what?
you found it? How have you been coping with it?
Do you know what? It's a touchy subject because you got to have respect for everybody because everybody's going through something different. So everyone's going through something very personal. Um, Luckily for me, I don't mind spending time sort of alone or sort of within a bubble. So it's been okay having a bit of downtime just to focus on different projects, starting up a YouTube channel. So
Nice.
it's helped me stay focused. So I've been enjoying it. It's not been nice what's been happening around the world with people, but with everything that's negative, there's always a positive as well. So I've been focusing on just the positive side of it.
Mm. Yeah, and that's true. Like, there's always a way to reframe these situations, and of course, without negating from all the really, really difficult times that people are experiencing right now. So it's good to hear that you're still growing and still pushing your brand. I've seen a lot of your stuff on LinkedIn, on YouTube, so I know that all is well with the Bennett machine.
Trying, man, trying.
Okay, cool. So, Born to Win, this podcast is pretty much all about storytelling and yeah, basically owning your story, right? And I'm actually curious to hear, from your perspective, Anthony, what does owning your story mean to you?
Ooh, I've never been asked that question. What does owning your story mean to you? Well, I think life is a journey that is full of ups, downs, left, right, so it'll throw you inside out. A lot of people would say, I haven't got a story, but my reply would be, you haven't got a story yet. And I think over the past year or so, many people have got that story. And I think what owning your story means is no matter what you've been through, whether it's negative, whether it's been a really bad moment, you still got to propel yourself forward. You know, like with what happened to me, and we'll get into that, I could have went very sort of left with it and been like, oh, poor me, poor me.
Yeah.
But I used my story and what I went through to my advantage to help me boost my own mental well-being and in a way to help other people boost their mental well-being. So owning my story, knowing that my story was a thing of the past, it's not in my present now. So when I think about or talk about my story, I don't need to get emotional about it because I've moved on from that story.
Hmm.
I can still reflect on the story and the bits and pieces that have happened to me to help myself, build my character, build my confidence, and help other people. So in
Hmm.
a way, I think I'm owning my story in that respect because
Hmm.
I'm using what I've been through to sort of ripple out positivity to help other people.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And that's really powerful because it sounds like you're saying, from your experience, your stories, all of the stuff that's happened, it sounds like you're saying you're pulling out some of the themes, some of the lessons, some of the tools, the techniques, the strategies that have helped you to build yourself in order to get you where you are today, and also put you in a position now with your platform to share those same tools with others in order to empower them, which I think is a really, really good way of owning your story for sure. And that resonates a lot, with my story as well. And yeah, some really powerful gems, and you've already touched on it, I guess. But at this point, people are wondering, "Ooh, this Anthony guy, what is his story then? Like, what's he learned and that kind of thing." So yeah, so from your lips, Anthony, what is your story?
Okay, so in a nutshell, because I can waffle, in 2006, I went on a school trip to Disneyland Paris, and unfortunately, about 95% of the students and the teachers that went on this trip fell poorly. It got to the point where I found it very difficult to speak and understand what people were saying. You know, when I was trying to communicate with my mum, she thought I was on drugs. She thought I was playing a prank on her. But what was happening was my lungs were infected, and that infection was spreading and growing on my lungs. So not enough oxygen was getting to my brain. So I was talking all this gobbledygook, and not enough oxygen was getting to my feet. So my feet started to turn blue. So I was rushed to my local hospital, and they took an X-ray of my chest, and they pretty much said to my dad there and then, my only chance of survival is if they could find a special life support machine called ECMO. So there were 4 hospitals in the whole UK that had an ECMO life support machine, and luckily Great Ormond Street Children's Hospital had the last available machine. So I was rushed to Great Ormond Street, and that's where I spent the next 7 weeks of my life. 3 weeks on a life support machine. I was diagnosed with strep pneumonia, influenza, staphylococcus, and sepsis all at the same time, given 10% chance of survival. My white blood cells reduced to 0. I had a seizure whilst in an induced coma. And on top of all of that, I had to be resuscitated and brought back to life 12 times. So for me to be on this call is a miracle. You know, I should not be alive. And then when I started to slowly show signs of improvement, I lost a lot of weight. I was pretty much a skeleton in the bed. And I had to relearn how to use my fist, make a fist, how to touch my finger to my nose, how to sit up, how to stand, how to walk again. I had a tracheostomy, which is a small tube that gets inserted into the lower bit of your neck, which you breathe from. And when you have that, you can't breathe through your nose or your mouth. So I had a machine that was breathing for me. And then I got weaned off of that. And then I had to learn how to sort of breathe and take breaths for myself, and how to use my voice again, because my voice box was relaxed for so long. When I started to speak again, when they removed the trachea, I sounded a little bit like Michael Jackson. I had no bass in my voice. It was like, hello. I had to learn how to bring back the bass to my voice.
Yeah.
So then once I came out of hospital, I received a phone call maybe about a year later from Great Ormond Street's charity, asking if I'd like to help them by sharing my story with a company called Morgan Stanley. I thought Morgan Stanley were 2 people, Morgan and Stanley. So I said yes, ended up being 400 people, but I chose to say yes to that opportunity, even though speaking in front of people was my biggest fear in life.
Mm-hmm.
So after doing that talk, I got a bit of a body buzz, like, wow, I did it. And then I opened that door of curiosity of, why am I feeling so good if that's something I don't enjoy doing? So I asked for more opportunities, and more opportunities came along. And then I was next asked if I wanted to help win a £7.5 million charity partnership for the hospital and the charity. And again, never done anything like that before in my life, but I chose to say yes. And long story short, the partnership was won. And then I was asked to join this company and help raise this money. Never worked in a corporate head office before. I see myself as quite a simple person. I don't know big, long words. I've got dyslexia. I don't know how to write big structured emails quickly. So I had all this doubt in my head. But again, I chose to say yes. And that took me on a 5-year journey, traveling the whole of the UK. And I'm from the London bubble. To me, that's the world.
Yeah.
So I got to venture to Manchester, Newcastle, Scotland, everywhere. And I saw the power of teamwork, people working together as a team to fundraise this money. And within 5 years, we hit £10 million for Great Ormond Street. And what I gained from that whole process was confidence in speaking and speaking with different types of people, whether they were housekeepers with English not being their first language, you know, using simple words and more of my body expression, whether I'm talking to corporate sort of the directors or the boards, or like senior managers, just adapting myself, my story to suit different audiences. And that's where I fell in love with the art of storytelling and getting my story across, but not in a way to say I was really, really ill and now I'm better, but in a flowing journey. So it makes people laugh, makes people cry, makes people think, and at the end, leaves people feeling inspired and wanting to do good things and wanting to say yes to opportunities. I kind of fell into this whole speaking thing, but I found my biggest passion by saying yes to the things that I was scared of. So just to round it off now, I then sort of started my own company, Anthony Inspires, and I started to speak in schools, colleges, universities, healthcare conferences, corporate events. I started to travel bits of the world. So it just began to grow bigger and bigger. And what's been really, again, speaking about the positives that's come from this pandemic, is it's allowed me to reach out via Zoom and other platforms virtually to people around the world, so the inspiration can keep on going, you know, because I think a lot of people need this inspiration. A lot of people are going through tough and rough times, you know, things I can't even imagine, you know, so just being able to help people, it feels good.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. So many good points you made there. So I'm gonna start with your, I guess, the first part of your story where you spoke about, I guess, your, that situation when you was younger and you had this like really complex, like bunch of medical issues happen to you all at one time, and you found yourself pretty much fighting for your life by the sounds of it. And so in that moment, because people are literally listening to this right now, wondering like, how did this guy recover from what feels almost like a deathbed, a death sentence? So did you have any awareness like during that time when you was, I guess maybe sedated, had all these machines like connected up to you? Like, what was the thing that kept you going, or was it just almost like a part of your life you don't really have much recollection of, if that makes sense?
No, I remember a lot of what happened. I was on a lot of medication, a lot of morphine. I was hallucinating a lot. So all of that was going on, but I still remember big chunks of what was going on with me. I think what kept me going was I just at no point thought I was as ill as I was, because I saw it from a perspective
Mm,
inside looking out. Say, for
right.
example, my mum standing next to me looking over, she saw it from the outside looking in on what was happening.
Mm,
So by me not knowing how ill I was, I just thought, okay, I just need to get better.
mm-hmm,
And I got what it felt like was where I had to relearn all these things again. It felt like my brain and my body were disconnected. My
mm-hmm,
brain knows how to walk, it knows how to talk, it knows how to do all these things, but my body physically couldn't do it. So I had to become best friends with myself in a way and keep cheering myself on. So when I took my first couple of steps, the medical team would say, okay, let's try 3 steps. Well, I'd say, no, I want to try 4. And I'd always try to push a little bit more, because what I noticed was the more I pushed myself, the more tubes they took away. The more I
mm-hmm,
pushed myself, the more medicine they took away. The more I pushed myself, the more I was breaking free and becoming Anthony again. So it's like I got addicted to progress. And that just kept me going. I kept seeing the improvement, and I just wanted it to keep going and going and going. When I left hospital, I was on about 20 tablets a day. They said that a small portion of those tablets will be long term, and one of them, I still remember the name, azithromycin, would be
mm-hmm,
for the rest of my life. But I just didn't believe it in myself. I thought, I'm not going to be on tablets for the rest of my life. So the team said to me, you've just got to prove to us you don't need it. So I started to eat healthy, started to walk, started to go on my bicycle, stay active. And within a year, I came off all my medication. And again, I
wow.
got body buzz, that feeling of, wow, I did it. So
Mm-hmm,
that body buzz feeling of, wow, I did it, is something that I chase in life. That feeling of being scared, or can I do it? Yeah, I'm going to try it at least, push myself. And when I do it, I get that feeling that I love, that, ooh, yeah, that felt good. And you feel
mm,
like you level up a little bit with yourself. So I think that's what helped me. So in a way, the worst thing that ever happened to me in my life has also been the best blessing ever, because I've
mm,
learned so much about myself and about life and about how to help other people. So when it was happening at the time, I was thinking, why me? Why am I the only one that got this ill? Did it make sense to me? Give it a bit of time, then it clicked. Oh, I had to go through all of that to now do all of this. So I'm grateful. So what I've learned about life is when I'm in a low moment or when bad things happen, I don't know what's happening because it's happening presently. But if I give it a bit of time, it will click further down. It may be a year, maybe 5 years, 10 years, but then I'll get that realization of, oh, now I get it. It makes sense now.
mm.
And again, it helps you to understand life a little bit more. So yeah, it was a big, big life lesson to me.
Yeah, that's really big, and it kind of reminded me of something one of my mentors says, which is he says, never believe a prediction that doesn't empower you. So
Oof.
never believe a prediction that doesn't empower you, which kind of like takes me back to where you were at that point where, you said, from maybe from other people's perspective, they would look at you and think, oh my God, this boy, he's so sick, right? But for you, because you couldn't see it, because it was internalized, you're looking from the inside out. You couldn't believe that prediction because it's not something that you were had any
Yeah.
connection to. And I think that's a really transferable lesson to anyone who's listening to this, because we can all look in the bank account and be like, oh my God, how am I paying the rent or the mortgage this month, right? And if you focus on that, then I feel like that takes away the opportunity to go and create something, right? So
100%.
I feel like that statement really wraps up that part of your story really well. Just never ever believe a prediction that doesn't empower you. And then the other thing that kind of jumped for me was when you spoke about how that those moments gave you momentum, right? And so moments being, just taking that first step and then pushing yourself to take 3 steps the next day and then 5 steps or whatever the numbers were, right? And, by kind of stacking all of those situations together, you ended up building momentum, being on less medication, being able to, I guess, be discharged from hospital and all of these things, right? So just some big gems there. So like proper appreciate you for sharing that. And yeah, and I guess the other part that you mentioned or you shared in your story piece was around your speaking. So, a lot of people who listen to this pod are actually super interested in public speaking. They want to build I guess, a lifestyle, a business that allows them to use their story to inspire or make a difference and have an impact in some way. And you mentioned a bit about, I guess your thought process, saying yes to things initially, even when you weren't sure about Morgan and Stanley, right? You still kind of took the opportunity even before you were ready. And yeah, I guess the question here is, what would be your tips or your suggestions for, I guess, for someone who's looking to get started on that speaking journey? And I guess maybe the times that we're in are different to perhaps when you and I started. So, when I started, I could go to, Toastmasters was a thing that I attended. So Toastmasters is like a public speaking meetup, and I'd go there and I'd practice my speeches to like 5 or 10 people. They were really bad at first, but then slowly but slowly they got better until eventually I could do like bigger talks, could do TED talks, and then corporate work and etc. Right? But what would be your kind of roadmap for someone who's listening to this right now and is like, oh my God, he or she is like, really inspired by Anthony, really want to get into public speaking. There's no events at the moment because of the pandemic. So how can I get started?
Right. I think there's going to be a couple of things here. Number one, you have to be serious about it. It's not just something you want to do for the sake of yourself, like to make you feel good about yourself because you got to speak on a stage in front of people and it's like a power trip. You need to get that ego out of your head. Number two is you have to give it time. You have to believe in the process of it all. Don't think you're going to be a speaker by next week or next month or maybe next year, because there's a lot of learnings you need to take on board throughout. Number one could be your actual speech itself. When you go and speak, do you know what you're going to be saying word for word? Or are you just going to start elaborating? Because if you're just elaborating, you may start to lose your audience because you're just thinking on the spot. You need to have a solid structure to what you're going to be saying. If you're using presentations, you need to know what you're going to be saying on each and every slide. What pictures you have, if you're going to have graphs or wordings, you need to understand your audience. In terms of my presentations, I use just images, big, bold images, and I use my words to speak with people. So they can see the picture, they can hear my words, and they're putting together the journey in their mind. So I'd say take on board as many learnings as you can, watch and listen to all the speakers that you can, as many as possible, just so you can see what works and what doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
See where your faults are. When you're speaking, do you say a lot? When I first started, I was the guy. I was like and then and I noticed I was saying a lot. So I said to myself, I want to get rid of the So it took me about 5 different speaking engagements before I got rid of And once I got rid of I got that body buzz, that feeling of, yes, I don't say no more. The next thing was to get rid of just looking at one side of the room. So when I was standing in front of people, I was quite nervous still. So I'd only focus on maybe 2 or 3 people, and I kept looking at the same people over and over again. I kept thinking to myself, they must feel so awkward with me just staring at the same 3 people. So I said, I need to start looking around the room. Then I need to start understanding it's okay to pause. I don't need to just rush and get all the words out. It's okay for me to slow down, take a little bit of a pause, and let the presentation breathe. So there's so many tips and tricks about speaking first that you try and understand before you step into that world. Don't think just because I've been through something, I can be a speaker. You can get some, I don't know, Olympic medalists that will go to a stage, but they don't know how to speak. They know how to run or jump or and do all these amazing things, but they don't know how to engage with an audience in terms of speaking. So they can get paid lots of money to be appearing on a stage, but the audience might not take anything away. They might be the speaker that says, believe and achieve. If I can do it, you can do it. And these are empty words that people can't resonate with. So you have to try and make your speech heartfelt in a way that people understand the emotions that you're bringing to the stage. I think what's brilliant is we live in a world that's very virtual now. So there's so many opportunities. Like, for example, before, I was trying my best to get in front of a teacher's conference because I wanted to do more schoolwork.
Yep.
So I was approaching all of these conferences, emailing them, and maybe out of every 100 I'd email, I'd get maybe one opportunity from it, paid or unpaid, but it was just an opportunity. But now, if I want to do a teacher's conference, eventbrite.com, LinkedIn events, put it together. And I'm actually putting on an event for teachers now because I'm doing my own conference off my own back, getting the graphics together, getting the content together, and inspiring teachers free of charge. It's not about the money, free of charge, just giving that inspiration. So you can always find little pockets of audiences that you can pull together and practice, rehearse, send out a survey. What did you enjoy? What didn't you enjoy? What do you think I can improve on? So before you start going to the big stages, start in the small stages. And it's something like Kevin Hart says, when he has when he's prepping to do a tour, he first goes to comedy clubs and he practices his big tour content in a comedy club to see what the audience says and what they think about it. And then he'll go to like an arena. And then when he thinks he's ready, then he'll take it to the big stages. Yeah. But he even goes back to the stage of the small groups first, test it out, then go to the bigger audience, then the big audience. So when you're starting out, don't try to get all the big corporate work in first because it's not going to work. You need to start prepping yourself for that. And that's where I go back to time. Give yourself time. It may take you a couple of years first. And if I say it's going to take you a couple of years and you're thinking, then you're speak about it, then you're not the person to be speaking. It's a journey, I've been speaking, I think just over 13 years now. Wow. And only a couple of years back, I started to venture to different countries. Didn't happen in my first year, second year, fifth year, eighth year. It was far in my speaker journey, those opportunities started to open up. So I really started to understand how to connect with the audience. And now it's a lot easier to get speaker jobs because I've built this portfolio. So start to build your portfolio, social medias. If I go on your social media channel and I start scrolling down, am I going to start seeing you on stages, inspiring people? What do I see when I see your page? Do I click like, oh, that's what they're about straight away? Or do I not? So if you go into, say, for example, mine or Winston's social media and start scrolling down, you'll see this is what we're about. This is what we're doing for a long time. So it'll be easier for us to get speaker jobs because people can see what we're about. People need to start seeing what you're about and that you're serious about it. You can't have on your social media pages pictures of you out drinking every night and then you're trying to say that you're a speaker. You have to invest in not drinking, but invest in the equipment, invest in a camera. So when you do have a speaking engagement, you've got a nice high quality picture of you on the stage, because that will help you get more jobs in the future. So it's all about the resources that you have as well. And you build this again over time, so there's loads of steps, but you have to be serious about your craft, really serious. Don't just try to do it just for the money. If you do it just for the money, you will hit a brick wall and you won't find your happiness within it. So definitely focus on your craft and give it time. And the way I like to explain it, imagine a playground and there's a roundabout and there's 100 people on this roundabout and your job is to spin it as fast as you can. When you first hold on to that roundabout and try to pull it and get it going, it's difficult. And then you grab it again, you pull it, it's a bit easier, then it's a bit easier. Then you start to use just one wrist to flick and keep the momentum spinning. That's like anything you put your mind to. When you first start anything, it's difficult. But you have to keep going through the motions, the ups and downs that come along this journey, not having money, doing things for free a lot, and then building it up. And then it'll get easier to the point where you can just spin speaking so easily because you've mastered it or you're on the journey of mastering it. So go on the journey, enjoy the journey, give yourself time.
Yes, no, I think some really great tips there. And I feel like a big part of that was just up around like commitment to learning the craft. So, like you said about Kevin Hart, even someone who is a global superstar is still humble enough and committed enough to go back to, his local stage and practice his content in front of, just a few people before he takes it on a much bigger stage. So it's just falling in love with just being really good at speaking. And then the other thing I think that I picked up was just around, I guess, the resources, right? The resources that you should be looking to have in place. And I think I even spoke about this in the previous episode. So if you are a speaker, then, the number one evidence that's going to get you booked is people seeing you speak. That's it.
Yeah.
That is it. You could have the best, prettier social media. You could, have really good branding. But if there's no video of you speaking, then it ain't gonna fly. It ain't gonna fly.
Yeah, people's
Right. So,
fans, they're very small nowadays. So they might go onto your website And if it's a bit dry and there's not pictures or videos or content when they see you, they're looking for the next speaker straight away.
Yeah.
So you start building that content so you can start to populate your website, populate social media that engages people so they think, I want him or her or anyone in between. I want them on my stage.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, one thing that just came to my mind right now as you were speaking, so I guess people from hearing your story so far would probably class you as a maybe like a motivational speaker or inspirational speaker, but I know you have specific topics that you speak on. So what are some of those topics and how did you decide, I want to specialize on topic A or topic B and not just be a, generic motivational speaker, if that makes sense?
Yeah. And again, that came with time, that came with getting a mentor to help me understand the different ways of speaking. So I got my mentor on LinkedIn. I typed in LinkedIn, motivational speakers, inspirational speakers, because at the time I didn't know the business side of it. I just knew that I love speaking. So I thought, let me go onto LinkedIn and let me search for people that have done this successfully, which I can learn from. So I met this man and he kindly invited me around his house to sort of help me understand a little bit more about speaking. And the first thing he said to me was, how do you structure your speech? And I said, well, I just tell people my story about when I was in hospital, when I came out and what I've been doing. And he said, that's it? I was like, yeah. He said, there's different ways you can share your speech. And I said, like how? He said, well, you can do it this way, where you start to talk through your story and then you hit like a subject or a topic and then you deep dive into that for say 5 minutes or so. And then you come back to the surface, start talking a bit more about your journey, and then you deep dive again. So you can do it that way. Or for the first half of your presentation, you can share your story. And then at the end of that first half, then you can have maybe bullet points on the screen of different topics you're going to then speak about that relate to your story. And when he said that, it blew my mind. I thought to myself, wow. So I started to see my story and pick out what were the themes I was talking about. So I was talking about teamwork, how it took everybody within the hospital, from the doctors, surgeons, nutritionists, the cleaners who came twice a day to clean around my bed. Every single person had a valuable role when it came to saving my life. So teamwork naturally grew from that. And then I repeatedly say throughout my presentation, when I was faced with an opportunity, I could say the word no, and my day would just carry on as normal. If I say the word yes, amazing things could happen. So I said yes, and then I go on to say about what happened and how it escalated into such a great thing. And then I'll hit that roadblock again, where I'm like, okay, opportunity, do I say yes or do I say no? So I repeat it word for word, that section. So that's something that I repeat throughout my journey, so it sticks in people's heads.
Yeah.
So saying yes to opportunity became a topic that I speak about. Then I talk about the voices in my head that help me. I got two voices: the dreamer voice that always says, I wonder what it will be like if. And then I've got the puller backer voice. No, we're not good enough. We're not smart enough. So understanding I had these two voices, when I work with my dreamer voice and I achieve something, that voice grows a bit bigger and stronger. And that puller backer voice, that doubt voice, grows smaller. So how to start working with yourself mentally. So that became a topic. So now, after speaking so many times with different audiences, I noticed that those were the themes that really connect with people, and listening to the feedback. Always listen to the feedback. Don't just listen to the round of applause. Always listen to the words that people tell you after, how that talk made them feel. When they email you, what part are they talking about that really stood out to that audience member? And then you start to get an idea, not from your point of view, but from other people's point of view, what is working for them. So then you know how to adjust and tweak your talk. And the way I see my talk is like an engine. So over the years, I will say my speech, and if I noticed I said a joke and not many people laughed at the joke, which I thought was funny, I'd be like, okay, let me try it again. So I'll try it in a different place. And again, if no one's laughing, then I'll say, right, that's not right for the journey. So I'll take it out, and then I'll replace that bit with something else. And then I'll try it, and I'll get loads of laughs. So I'll try it again and again and again. And if the laughs stay, that's staying within the engine. So I've been tweaking this engine over a period of years to understand what is working and what isn't working. You don't hit the nail on the head the first time, and you have to go through all the self-doubt, all the mind blanks that you have on the stage, all the times you mess up. We have to keep going and going and going and keep practicing your craft.
Yeah. And I think that's such a good bunch of useful tips, because that's one of the most common questions I get from people. So they have this inspirational story, but they then go online and they look at, I don't know, keynote speaker topics, right? And they'll see like some of the hot topics at the moment. So they'll find like resilience, diversity and inclusion, teamwork, all of these like big topics that apparently the corporations are paying big money for. And so they almost put their own story to the side and then they say, I want to start talking about diversity and inclusion. But
Yeah.
what do you actually know about diversity and
Straight
inclusion?
to it.
Exactly. So, I really like your way because it starts from looking within. You take your story and then you really unpack it and start to pull out some of those themes and lessons. And then if it does, in fact, relate to resilience, then great. You can start to build content around resilience, not looking for what's hot at the moment and trying to tie yourself to it. That I don't feel like that's a successful strategy.
I agree.
And maybe a bit of a taboo subject.
Ooh,
And
I like this one.
yeah, I know you like the borderline stuff, so I thought I'd chuck it in. So, one of the big things again that people are attracted to when it comes to speaking is money.
Mhm.
Money. So apparently we're all, millionaires and billionaires and, do half an hour's work every day and just get paid a lot of money, right?
That's the
And
truth.
so, so I just want to dispel some of the myths around money within speaking. And maybe first of all, you know, is a speaker, a keynote speaker, or an inspirational speaker, how can you justify, making all of that money, Anthony, from speaking on the stage for 45 minutes when there's people, going to work and working maybe a whole week or a whole month to make that same pay packet? How do you justify that?
Well, I'll be 100% honest. It blew my mind when I started to understand the money side of it and how much money you can get in speaking. But that wasn't what drove me when I first started speaking. When I first started speaking, remember I was speaking 5 years working for a company, just getting my standard wage at the end of the month, which wasn't a lot of money. But where I just love speaking, I just wanted to keep improving it. I never knew that I'd become a speaker at that point, but I just wanted to keep getting better and better and better and better. Then I got made redundant and I was thinking, what do I do next? How do I join another company, become a speaker for a company? There wasn't really jobs that was doing that. So I was in a bit of a pickle and I was thinking, right, my only option is to start my own company as a speaker. I failed double business. How am I going to even do this? And what drove me was my passion for it. I failed double business in school. So business was not my strength, but my passion made me learn what I needed to learn to put it together. So what I did with my pay package that I got from leaving that company, I said, how long have I got? And I gave myself a time limit, like a window. So I said, with all the expensive bills and this and that, I've got about 3 months to survive on this money. I said, this is my window to make it happen. If it doesn't happen within this time frame, then I've only got myself to blame. So what I did, I stopped going out, I stopped going to the pub, stopped meeting with my friends, and I literally stayed in my bedroom, big piece of paper, and I just kept writing down ideas and what I thought I would need to become a speaker. Gonna need a website, gonna need business cards, gonna need this, that, making a list, making sub lists of all the things. And I started to piece it all together. I need to learn about accountancy, tax, VAT, the legal side of it. So I started to learn these things, and then I created my company, got the letter come through the post to say, this is your company number. And it was a big, exciting moment. And when I first started, like I said, I wasn't even getting money. I was speaking for free because what I was doing, I was emailing hundreds of people a day. I was going on to Google and I was typing in healthcare conferences 2017, healthcare conferences 2018, and just seeing what companies had reoccurring annual conferences. And then I'd find an email address and I'd email them and say, hey, I'm a speaker. I speak about a patient journey. Would you like to book me? And I was emailing all these people. And again, out of every 100 that I'd email, I'd maybe get one reply that says, we'll give you a try, but we've not got a budget. You hear this a lot when you first start speaking. We haven't got a budget. But to me, it wasn't about the money. So what I did, I took my camera with me everywhere I went. So one of these talks was to National Rail. They didn't have a budget, but it was fine because what I did, I took my camera, and when I was on stage, I told someone in the audience or a team that was part of the events team, do you mind just taking a picture of me on the stage? And they were like, yeah. So what I gained from that talk was not money, but it was a picture of me with the logo of National Rail in the background. So when I put that on my website, I've spoken at National Rail, that added to my credibility. So I was like, yes. So I was looking for logos, like speaking for free for big periods of times, eating noodles and all the cheap food to survive, but just trying to grow my platform. So I invested in more camera equipment, bigger and stronger lenses, to get high quality pictures of me on stage. Because if you just take your phone with you, the phone picture quality is not the greatest. It doesn't sort of have a close up of you speaking, facial expressions. Anyone could do that. So if you take a good lens, zoomed, and it's like really detailed, depth of field and all of that, it stops people as they're scrolling like, oh, that's a nice picture. It makes you seem more professional. So I was doing that and building that side, the content side of things. And like I said about the roundabout, the more I was pushing and more logos I was getting, it was easier to get jobs because people would go onto my website, see what I'm about. Then what I started to do, I'd go to conferences and I'd hand out pieces of paper. And at the end of my talk, I'd say, do you mind just writing down any feedback you have about my presentation on the paper? And the feedback would sometimes be really, really nice. So I'll take photos of these feedback and I'll start to tweet them and put them on my Instagram. So people would start to understand the feedback I was getting from my talks. Because it's one thing to say, if you ring or email someone saying, hey, I'm a really good speaker, please book me. They want to see the audience feedback. Having testimonials, I don't like testimonials because if you ask someone for a testimonial, of course they're going to write some really nice fluffy words about you. So what I do, I go onto Twitter, and if anyone's tweeted saying, oh, I was just at a conference and Anthony Bennett was a brilliant speaker, I'd screenshot that and I'd use the raw audience feedback. I haven't spoken to them or told them to tweet it. It's just what they're saying. So then when I start to email people, I'd include photos of me on the stage. I'd include the audience feedback. So then it was easier to get jobs. So I kept building this sort of profile or portfolio that I could start to send people. When I started taking my camera around, I started to vlog the day. Hey, I'm now at this event and we're going to be speaking about this, this, and that. And this is how the day is going to unfold as a speaker. So then I had video content and I created a promo video myself, edited it myself. And then I had that on the email link as well. So if you want to see me on stage in pictures, and then you see the audience feedback. And if you click that little play button, you can see me, my promo video of me speaking in different places. So then it became easier to get jobs. But again, this was a process. It took a good couple of years to build that up to a point where people can click on me and say, I get it. He's a speaker. Right. Okay. But I went through that of not getting money. And when you talk about getting paid a lot of money to speak for, I don't know, half an hour, 45 minutes, there's a lot more to it because it's taken you years and years to perfect that craft. It's like you can either go to a butcher and ask him to come and fix the lighting in your house, but you can cut costs by getting a butcher to come in to do it, or you can get an electrician that's been through college, university, got his plaques and certificates and all of that stuff, and you'll pay him a lot more money because he knows it inside out. So that's the difference. You have to go on that journey and build yourself up before the money comes. You can't start off as a speaker and say, yeah, I'm going to charge you $1,000 or $5,000 or $10,000 to have me speak on your stage. It don't work like that. You have to go through the process. So if you're serious about speaking, if you're just doing it for the money, stop, because you might get lucky with the 1 gig or the 2 gigs, but it won't be consistent. You have to build that credibility where people can say he's an excellent, or she, or anyone in between is an excellent speaker. And then they will start to refer you to other people. And that's when naturally you build that word of mouth where people start to say, hey, my friend saw you speak at this event, said you was brilliant. We want to book you for this conference. And just remember as well, plant positive seeds with everybody that you come across in your speaker journey, because you don't know who you speak to. And that person, they may work for that company now, but in 2 years' time, they might work for a different company. And if you are good to this person, look after them, treat them nicely, respectfully, guess what? When they've got another conference coming up, who's going to come to their mind first? So always plant your positive seeds with people. Don't think you're really big balls and you're the best because you're the speaker or the keynote speaker on the stage. Always keep it humble throughout. And that will help you become more like a magnet where more opportunities and inquiries will come through. Stay grounded at all times. Don't see it as money. Don't show off. I say to people as well, don't try to be flashy. If you're getting a lot of money from speaking, don't go around with a big watch on and chains and everything, trying to sort of give off that image, because it will make people repel against you. That's why if you see me speaking, the majority of the time I just wear plain black, because it's not about what I'm wearing, what colors I'm wearing, or how I can make myself look funky. It's about the story I want to take you on. I want your attention to be on the story side of it, not how I'm looking. So I take the ego away, and it's more about what I'm saying that can resonate with, make you feel emotions.
Yeah, and I think what I really like about all of that is that it's actually transferable to pretty much every business, not just speaking. Like you could be a hairdresser, you could be, a candle maker. You could be anything, right? And it's again going back to the idea of just not doing it for the money, doing it because you want to solve a particular problem. You want to help people in a particular way. And funny enough, you literally pretty much almost recapped my previous episode, which is where I was talking about, how to leverage free exposure. So, those free speaking opportunities, or if you are in business, how can you send people some samples of the thing that your product is, in order for them to give you that feedback, in order for you to get those pictures, those videos, and build that content around your website, around your brand, that will eventually, and it does take time, eventually start to get you noticed in the market. So, I think that is really, really good advice, especially because it agrees with what I said in the last episode. So,
It's true though. It's like anything. The more you put in free at the beginning and just keep learning along the way, the bigger it will grow.
I really like what you shared it because it's not just about the half an hour, the 45 minutes on the stage, but it is actually all the years of prep and the years of hard work that goes behind it. So that's all pretty good to me. Makes perfect sense. And I guess as we begin to wrap up, Anthony, so we kind of touched on in the beginning about, I guess, how do you say it? Just the way the world is at the moment. It's not an easy time for many people. I don't know if you've noticed, but I've seen a lot of stuff going on around mental health. There's a lot, people are affected, in different ways, in business, people are affected in their physical health as well, just with everything that's going on in the world at the moment, all these crazy headlines we read about the politics, etc. And you shared a bit in the beginning about how you've been reframing this time and to allow you to kind of remain creative and remain on track. And so I guess thinking specifically about people who are in business or people who want to launch that speaking career, what is one thing that they can be doing now, before the stages reopen again or before we're able to go out and live our lives like we used to? What is one thing they can be proactive with during this time so that they come out not having wasted, 2 or 3 months or however long we're going to be in this position?
Yeah. I think it goes back to time. With the time that we have now, for a lot of people, we're having a lot of downtime, time at home. So use the time you have wisely. Use this as your window of opportunity. Because say, for example, once we get back to the normal world, we might lose a bit of time. We're going to be a lot busier than what we are now. So if you do have a window of time, use that as your opportunity. Say to yourself, within the next month or whenever, I don't know, schools go back or businesses go back, what do I want to achieve within this time? Give yourself a goal to achieve. Don't use this time to mope. If you're feeling upset or down, have that time, have that moment, but then after tell yourself, right, what can I do now? And it could be just one thing. It could just be one thing that at the end of it, you say to yourself, I'm proud that I've done that. I'm proud that I've set up my social media channels. I'm proud that I've taken my profile picture correctly. I'm proud that I've got a stream of different emails which I could start to send out to businesses. Just get something to help you get the ball rolling that you can say, I did that. I did that during lockdown, and then, just absorb. Use this time to absorb. If you're spending more time on your phone whilst in lockdown, what are you spending your time on? Is it just scrolling through TikTok and Instagram and Twitter? Or can you be scrolling for the right content that's going to be helping you? So are you looking at the right YouTube videos? Are you looking at people that you aspire to and seeing how they're doing things or what they're doing with their time? Look at productivity on YouTube. How can you start to structure your day? Are you a night owl where you can spend the whole night just up and you've got energy and you can start planning and structuring things in the dead of night where there's no sounds around you and no distractions? Or are you an early bird where you can get up at 5 a.m. and start your day? Do you pay attention to your energy levels throughout the day? Are you most productive in the morning, in the afternoon, or in the evening? And how long can you be productive for? Do you get bursts of maybe 15, 20 minutes where you can just put your head down and get into the zone? Can you do it for a couple of hours? And when does that concentration start to break and you start getting distracted and procrastinating? Start to understand your own self and how you start to do things and be a bit more self-aware about how you do things as well. Because then you know how to start positioning yourself and how to achieve things. Is it early in the morning, afternoon, or evening? And then you start to find your own flow of building yourself, whether it's mentally or physically towards getting towards your goal as a speaker. And always remember, don't be afraid to ask for help. I used to be a person that I didn't like to ask for help. I'd always try to figure things out myself. But by asking for help and getting a mentor, my oh my, did things start to speed up, because I had all the answers that I was trying to figure out at my fingertips. I could just call my mentor or arrange a meeting, and then he would help me. And I'd be like, wow, now I get it. So by asking for help, you can move a lot faster. Don't try to hold on to your ideas and think people are going to steal your ideas. People are too busy doing other things, worrying about their own lives, to be caring about your idea. Your idea is your idea. And if you really want to do it, you're going to spend time on the idea and do it a lot better than anyone else can do. And the world is full of people copying people or adapting other people's ways of thinking. So don't think you've got a unique idea and it's just for you. Share your idea. Reach out, get people's feedback. What do you think about this? I'm thinking about doing this idea. Do you think it could work? And listen to the feedback as well. Listen to the feedback of people that you care about, because they will tell you, hopefully, honest feedback, which you can take on board. Don't take it as a shot in the heart if they say something bad or constructive. Take it all on board, because it will help you develop yourself in the long term. So always give yourself time. Don't try to rush the process. Don't try to be a speaker by next week. It's not going to happen. It's like trying to be Gordon Ramsay by next week because you chop the carrot. You don't do it. You have to do the whole process. You need to get scars on your back, or cut your finger a few times if you're chopping if you want to become a cook or a chef. So go through the ups and downs of the journey. When it starts going down, don't get disheartened, because you'll always get lessons in the down times. Throughout my whole life, anytime things went bad, I've always gained a life lesson. And guess what? Once you gained all these life lessons, it's like you've got a blueprint of how to get out of it next time it happens. So in a way, be grateful if you've gone through a downtime. See the gems that happened to you or for you whilst you were down, and use those to help propel you forward. So I think that'll be my best tip. And if anyone has any questions or wants to reach out, feel free to do so. Drop me a DM at I am Ant Bennett, and Bennett is 2 N's and 2 T's. So I am at Bennett, and I'll be more than happy to help you wherever I can. Just ask for the help.
Yeah, that's a really good offer. And I was literally going to ask you how people can connect with you and discover some of the things that you're doing. And I will definitely make sure to put your social media links in the show notes for those that wanna reach out, connect with you, even carry on the conversation, because there's been so much good stuff shared
I'll tell you,
today.
I'm a waffler.
No, honestly, good stuff though. Like, waffle is bad when it's just like generic or it's not really giving value. Like, this is the good kind of waffle. This is the kind of waffle that I want
Yeah,
every day.
that waffle
So,
with the ice cream and the cherry.
yeah. It's on the same level as the Belgian waffle for sure. No, no, I totally appreciate you. And by the way, I really like what you shared with regards to your tips, because what I really like was that you encouraged, the people listening to this right now to really focus on themselves and start from where they are. Because I feel like one of the things that can happen during lockdown is you start looking, if you are a speaker, you start looking at other speakers. What's Anthony doing? Oh, Anthony's doing his own event for teachers. So maybe I'm going to go and do the same, even when that's not particularly my market. So, it's starting where you are and doing the thing that feels like the next right step for you
Yeah,
and what
yeah.
you want to achieve.
And I think that's right. Think of where you are and what is the next level for you. How can you improve yourself just a little bit today or a little bit by next week? And then just keep improving yourself bit by bit. And over a course of time, you'll look back and say, wow, look at all the growth. You don't look at someone that is, I don't know, if you're just starting speaking and you're looking at a super duper inspirational speaker and thinking, I want to do what they're doing, so try to mimic them. Guess what? You've not got everything they've gained over the years. So if you try to jump too high too quick, that's when you fall just as quick. So always try to build your solid foundation and step by step improve things. Learn along the way, and you'll be excited by all the learners you take on board. Like, wow, I've achieved that. I did that. Feel good about what you're achieving, not what other people have done. You're trying to copy them. If you try to copy people throughout your whole life, you start getting confused, and then you start thinking, oh, what am I doing in life? Or why have I spent so long trying to
Mm,
be that person when they are that person? Try to be your person. People will start to love you as a person if you start to give and reveal a bit more about who you are and what you do and why you do what you do. And give it time. Let that grow. Let yourself grow.
yeah, definitely. And the other thing that, as we finish, it's that community aspect, being able to connect with people like yourselves, like yourself, Anthony, who's been on that journey, who started from, a long way back, not being able to, not maybe having the confidence to speak on a big platform to, now doing, you've done all kinds of corporations, you've done big conferences, you went to Australia, right, a few years ago. That was a gig that you did.
Oh, that was insane. And that, just to briefly wrap up on that one. So,
Yeah.
speaking in Australia was my biggest ever event. 1,500 people in the audience. The Dalai Lama was speaking on the same speaker lineup. How I got to Australia was through my darkest time ever. Something happened and I hit depression, and I was trying to get myself out of this depression. And I kept saying to myself, like, again, going back to, I didn't want to jump too quick, too high and try to get to my happiness, because I'd fall back into sadness if I didn't achieve things. So I started smally, little by little, building myself back up. And I started to just reach out to maybe, again, 100 people a day. And I started to start running again and trying to sort of get myself mentally in a better place. And then I received the email saying, hey, we want to invite you to this conference. It's going to be in front of this many people. We'll pay for your flight there, flight back, accommodation, all of that. Would you like to come? And I emailed so many people day after day for about 3 weeks. So when I received this email, I was thinking, who's this company? I've completely forgot. I've emailed so many people. When I clicked on the website, it said happiness and its causes.com.au. And I thought, .com.au? What does that mean? Scrolled down, it said Sydney, Australia. And I was like, again, wow, now I get it. I had to go through all that low time that I was going through for the greatness to happen. But when I went out there, I reminded myself, this doesn't mean that I'm a celebrity. It doesn't mean that I've made it. I'm still just Ant from London, speaking in Australia. I'll be back home by the next week trying to get more work in. But I told myself, whilst I'm buzzing, in this country I never thought I'd ever in my life get to, I got to see kangaroos and stuff. Like, it was incredible. But whilst I was out there, I told myself to remember everything, absorb everything. I still remember the smell of the stage, how tight people in Australia hug, what the animals look like. The animals look like Pokemon. But I took it all on board. So if I was ever in a low place again, I can always reflect on what I made possible by just putting my head down and just trying again. So sometimes life will knock you down, definitely. And no one has a perfect life. Life doesn't just go up, 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 up for everyone. And it doesn't go down, 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 down for everyone. It goes up and down, a bit like, I don't know, the stock market or a heartbeat monitor. It's always going up and down. So you learn on the downs and you learn on the ups as well. So you learn to appreciate both sides of yin and yang, positive and negativity, and use both energies to help you, propel yourself forward. And you a bit of time as well.
Now, honestly, yeah, and I love that Australia story because, people, it's like how they say, overnight success, talking about overnight success, but actually you're not an overnight success because it took all of those years of grafting, of working on your craft, of sending, hundreds of emails per day in order to get that one, really, really positive invitation. And so let that just be a lesson to anyone listening to this, if speaking or business or entrepreneurship is something that you want to commit to, then make it a long-term commitment. Don't just do it for material short-term reasons. And honestly, Anthony, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for just coming and being so open as usual. You're one of the most open people that, I've gotten to speak to. So it's always a pleasure sharing any stage with you, whether it's a coffee, in London or, sharing a Zoom call with you like we have done today. And I'm sure the guys will be connecting with you when I share the social media platforms. And hopefully we get to do this again another time. I feel like there could be potentially a part 2 coming up.
Yeah, for sure. And just thank you for inviting me to this as well. Getting to know you over the years, you're a good guy, you're an honest person. And I think it's great that you're always trying to help people as well, support people. So hats off to you and keep picking yourself up, man.
Thank you, bro.
Winston for president.
Vote for me. Okay, guys. Well, that's it. And tune in next week for more Born to Win madness. Sorry, inspiration. All right. Bye, guys. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. And by the way, if you're listening on Spotify, Apple, or some other kind of app and you got some value from today's episode, then I'd absolutely love if you could drop me a quick review. Until next time.